Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. We're about to unravel a fascinating, almost unbelievable scientific detective story all about human fear. You know, if you've ever felt anxious, jittery, or just straight up afraid, you probably think you know exactly what's happening inside your own brain, right? Well, buckle up because the latest science suggests the story we tell ourselves about our own anxiety might be fundamentally wrong. We're going to explore a highly provocative question today, because the single most widely accepted rule in emotion neuroscience, a concept you'd find in literally every Psych 101 class and printed in every modern textbook, was recently completely dismantled. And the craziest part? It was dismantled by the exact same guy who invented it. Okay, let's dive right in. We have to start with this bizarre, absolutely wild split brain experiment from the 1970s. Patients had the two halves of their brains surgically disconnected, and researchers showed those halves completely different images. The left side of the brain saw a picture of a chicken claw, so the patient's hand pointed to a chicken. Makes sense. But the right side of the brain saw a snow scene, so the other hand pointed to a snow shovel. Now here's the catch. The talking part of the brain is on the left side, and that left side had absolutely zero idea that the right side was looking at snow. So when the researchers asked the talking left hemisphere, "Hey, why did you point to the shovel?" the brain had a serious problem. It didn't know about the snow, but it didn't just admit, "I don't know." Instead, it confidently provided this exact quote: "Well, I saw a chicken claw, and you need the shovel to clean out the chicken shed." Think about that. Because the talking left hemisphere didn't see the snow scene, it simply made up a totally logical-sounding story out of thin air just to explain why the hand was pointing to a shovel. And that brilliantly illustrates our core theme for today, confabulation. Basically, our conscious mind is constantly acting as a 24/7 storyteller for our non-conscious biological reactions. You see, we have massive amounts of unconscious processes controlling our behavior all of the time. When our conscious mind observes us doing something automatically, it just immediately creates a narrative to make that behavior make sense. We are essentially confabulating, making up stories all day, every day, just to understand our own lives. Section 1. The Fear Center Myth, Rethinking the Amygdala. So if we're just narrating unconscious behaviors, what's actually generating them in the first place? To answer that, we turn to the pioneering neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux. Just to give you a sense of this guy's absolute authority, his work has been cited over 180,000 times. That's massive. By almost any measure, he is the greatest emotion neuroscientist alive today. He practically invented the field of emotional brain research. Back in the 1990s, Ledoux famously mapped out the amygdala. That's the small, almond-shaped structure deep inside the brain. Through his research, he solidified its reputation as the brain's definitive fear center. For decades, this was the model. It's at the absolute standard for how scientists, doctors, and all of us understood anxiety and fear. But then, Ledoux dropped an absolute bombshell on the scientific community. After decades of building this famous model, putting his name on it, and teaching it to the world, he realized he was wrong. He fundamentally changed his own theory, coming out and stating directly, the amygdala is not a fear center. It's an ancient defensive survival circuit. Guys, that is a massive, massive paradigm shift. Section 2, Survival Circuit, Ancient Defenses. All right, so what is this ancient survival circuit actually doing then? Well, if you trace the history of danger back 4 billion years, you find early bacterial cells that automatically avoided danger just to survive long enough to multiply. Then, millions of years later, early mammals evolved a neurobiological survival circuit, the amygdala, to manage these automatic defensive reflexes. It is only in the extremely recent present that humans evolved conscious cognitive experiences. So basic defensive reflexes existed literally billions of years before brains could consciously feel anything at all. Let's break down the shift. Under the old paradigm, we all thought the amygdala created the conscious feeling of fear. But under the new paradigm, we now understand the amygdala is purely an unconscious defensive survival circuit. Freezing when you see a snake in the grass, or feeling your heart pound right before public speaking, that's an automatic, non-conscious biological reflex. It is not the conscious emotion of fear. Section 3. Constructing fear. Making sense of danger. Okay, so if the amygdala just handles those automatic, jittery reflexes to keep us alive, where does actual conscious fear come from? The secret is distinguishing between danger and fear. Responding to danger is universal, it's biological, and it's totally automatic across organisms all over the planet. But fear? Fear is an entirely culturally constructed, subjective human experience. Just because we translate the English word fear into languages around the world doesn't actually mean other cultures consciously experience it the exact same way. We actually construct our fear using something psychologists call schemas. Schemas are basically the mental templates we use to consciously label those automatic physical responses as an emotion. Over the course of your entire life, you acquire bodies of knowledge from your experiences. So when your unconscious survival circuit triggers that physical arousal, your conscious mind uses these learned schemas to make sense of the physical jitteriness, and it narrates it to you as fear. And what's really wild is how deeply personalized these schemas are. Your fear is inherited and shaped by very specific factors. We're talking about the way your parents modeled anxiety, the specific subculture of the town you live in, the larger political environment, and your own unique childhood memories. Our totally subjective experience of fear is built using these inherited schemas. They act like a personalized script we use to narrate our physiological lives. Section 4. Healing Anxiety. A New Paradigm. So why does all this matter for you and me? Well, it fundamentally changes how we approach mental health. As Ledoux argues, psychiatric drugs alone often fail to fully cure people. Don't get me wrong, drugs are great at taming the amygdala. They reduce that behavioral jitteriness and the automatic physical arousal. But they cannot cure conscious anxiety, because they cannot rewrite your cognitive schemas. They sedate the unconscious survival circuit, sure, but they do absolutely nothing to fix the conscious mental narrative you are telling yourself. To actually heal, Ledoux outlines a super actionable 3-step process. First, you tame the amygdala. You reduce the physical arousal using medication or exposure therapy so you can actually function. Second, you retune the hippocampus, which basically means updating your factual memories about whatever is triggering you. And third, you re-narrate the self. This requires ongoing work, usually through therapy, to actively change the conscious story you've been confabulating about your own physical responses. Which brings me to a final, really provocative thought I want to leave you with today. If our conscious emotions are really just stories we confidently tell ourselves to explain away our unconscious, evolutionary physical reactions, what part of your fear is actually just a schema? What part of your anxiety is really just a habitual narrative waiting to be beautifully rewritten? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it reshapes how you think about your brilliant narrating mind.